Okay, good morning, everybody. So my name is Ivan Suarez. We're going to go ahead and get started.
All right, so yes, we are live now. As I said, just a bit of housekeeping, okay? For those of you who have just joined in, I'll put you all on mute as of now so that there is no disturbance and you can hear the speaker loud and clear. However, if you have any question, you can easily go ahead and type it in the chat box, or you can directly go ahead and talk. At the end, we will have a detailed question and answer session. Today's webinar is named Unlock the Sherlock, where we will go ahead and discuss about the forensic operations to track down hackers. This webinar is brought to you by Xaltus. We are a tech-driven company offering multiple courses in multiple domains, cybersecurity being one of them. And for today's webinar, we have with us Ivan Soares, who has joined in from Florida and is an expert in the field of cybersecurity with more than 20 years of experience. So I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm going to straight away pass on the mic to Ivan so that he can go ahead and take you into the beautiful world of cybersecurity. Ivan, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully well. As Sanke was saying, we're going to go ahead and get started with talking about forensics operations and how to track down people, well, attackers anyway. So, quick reminder, it'll be about 45 minutes for the presentation. You can always watch your presentation anytime as you want. If you have any questions, by all means, ask away. Who am I? What I've been doing? What do I do? Well, I'm actually been working in cyber. Well, I'm not considered cyber. Back then, it wasn't called that. It was called computer science many years ago. And it has evolved into computer science and what it is today. And what that means is that technology has grown and it really adapted into what it has become. I was considered a forensics and the ethical hacker back in the Army many, many years ago. And I went to that whole environment and left there and went to work in healthcare. Then after that, I continued working in these different things. But mainly I focus in electronic warfare, exploitation, coding, networking, social engineering, you name it, everything and anything that falls into the red team, blue team tactics. And what that translates to is offensive and defensive operations. Being able to defend against an attacker and also be able to go offensively against an attacker, vice versa. And I've been teaching well over many years. I think I'm close to almost 1,000 online courses, and I've helped students achieve many, many different graduating programs, and, taught at different universities, and given many different lectures. Not to talk about my background, but overall certifications wise, I think I have over 40 different certifications, but it's kind of my background. So what we don't do, this is not legal advice. So, and don't give anybody legal advice. This is just information and for you to be able to understand and know what to do with this information. In other words, by understanding what is happening, understanding what is going on, you know how to move forward. We're not permitting you to authorize in any way to do this. Now, if you are going to try and do some of these things, I would recommend setting up a lab in your environment and doing it that way. Do not do this on anybody. Do not do this in a public area, nowhere. Don't ever do any of this without permission. And not someone telling you, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. Get it in writing, get it in email, get it in signature. Make sure you have written, approved permission. Even if you're in the same household. If you live with your parents or you live with somebody, make sure that they have approved you to do this in writing, email, text, whatever it is. That it's very clear what is being asked and very clear that you understand. So using search engines, I know everybody here uses a search engine. So for example, Google, DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, other stuff. What do those do? What do all those search engines do? What they do is they find information on sites. They find information on websites. How they accomplish that is by these sites having spiders, these little devices or different programs that go out there and they scour the web and they search site by page by page by page by page by page. And they would call it an index. They index every single one of those little sites. And they try to find exactly what's going on and exactly what is needed. Okay. 1 second, guys. Okay, can you guys hear me better? Is that better? Okay. So basically, as these websites are being scoured and devices are being searched and scanned and searched and scanned, they're being indexed. As they index and index and index, this is what, when you put in a search query, I want to look for pizza. Google says, hey, he's looking for pizza. Give me everything with pizza. Boop. Finds everything that comes up. That's how it finds it, because it sent out its spiders to find it. But here's the funny thing about that. Those spiders cannot scan things that are being told not to. So websites have what's called a robot file. That robot file says, do not do this. And the rule of thumb is that they're not supposed to scan it. And they're supposed to abide by that, and they do that. Now, okay, so bloggers tend to post information. Government websites post information. All these are all mainly traditional methods, okay? Now, modern resources are advanced search engines. There are search engines like IntelliJ. There's TinEye for reverse photo searches. You want to find out if your picture somewhere on any other website, you can use TinEye. There's all kind of tools you can use, but there's an incredible tool within Google using the right search terms called Google dorking. Or in other words, being able to utilize the Google Hacking database. By introducing the right kind of terminology, you can actually force the system to do exactly what you want. Well, that's where those advanced search engines come in. In deep web and dark web searches, that's where it becomes a little more interesting, because in those dark web searches, you're basically telling the system, hey, do you have any of this? Can we find this? Does it exist? Does it there? Sure, we can. But that kind of search requires a little more knowledge, because you're going into an environment where you're going layers deep into basically uncharted waters. Now, what's interesting is deep web and dark web are considered bad. They're not bad. They're just spaces that Google and other websites and like Yahoo and other companies are not allowed to scan. In other words, in your workplace, I guarantee you this most likely in the internal web page. which has a website that's only available to the employees when they're in the company, an intranet. That's considered a dark page. That's part of the dark web because it's not searchable. In other words, not indexing. That piece there, it's hard to search because it's not, doesn't exist. So you won't be able to actually go to that. Okay. People are afraid of that. Now you can actually host your own by simply downloading Apache and running it on your computer. But the problem with that is it's not registered. Social media sites. Now, social media sites are interesting because if you're trying to find somebody or trying to find something about somebody, you follow a thread. Usually you have someone's handle or their name, their username. Where do you go from there? You can use programs like Magent and others like that, like the Google Hacking Database. Not Hacking Database, the G-Hunt, Sherlock, and so forth. And you can do these massive searches across the web, finding out if these accounts have been already exist. And what's pretty interesting is that these programs will go out there and find them, even if they're set to not be public. So finding these social media accounts, pretty easy. Advanced tools. The amount of tools that are out there right now for modern searches is incredible. You can do hashtag searches. You can do basically everything you can imagine in terms of a term, a word, anything anybody posts on the web can be reversed and searched. Nothing is without reach. What really comes down to is what do you want to find? And you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, what is this guy talking about? Well, how about something as simple as knowing your sleep cycle? Someone can figure out your sleep cycle based upon your tweet pattern on Twitter. That's pretty interesting. Sleep time. You use Snapchat, you can use a program called map.snapchat.com, and they'll be able to see all your snaps and track your locations where you're posting all your Snapchats and see them at any given time. I tried to find a scammer through Telegram. How can I find more information? Running Telegram is not that hard to find. It's actually pretty easy. If you have the Telegram ID, you can do a reverse search on them. As we go further through this, there'll be some tools I'll bring up, okay? You'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. There's a bunch of different tools we can talk about. One of the good ones is called IntelliJex. Okay, and APIs. What are APIs? APIs are basically methods which systems are able to communicate to other systems. In other words, if I have a program that's connected from Google to, let's say, I don't know, Waze or some other application using my Google login. Yes, it's SSO, meaning single sign-on, but it's also connected to my data. They're sharing back and forth my data, right? Or if I'm using Spotify or normal other programs, they're sharing my data. They're allowed because it's an API. They're communicating back and forth. Now, what is OSINT? So OSINT is basically open source intelligence. Now, we can talk about OSINT for days, but the most important thing we need to realize about OSINT is that OSINT is just the information available on the web and using the right tools to find the right data about something, somebody, or anything. Basically, doing the right search and how to use those searches the right way. Now, Could you imagine that you're trying to find somebody and you're having difficulty and you're looking, but where do we find them? How do we pinpoint them? How do we identify them? Well, it's pretty simple. You can look at stuff like media for news, interviews, closed caption. You can look at articles for academic researches, for journalists. You can look at terrorist deliverables, video recordings, audio recordings. You realize that there's programs at your fingertips right now, like OneDrive. I don't know if you've ever heard of that program, that will allow you to do audio dictation recording and transcription. And you can see those videos and then it'll transcribe it for you. Leaflet, booklets, and books, big time. The internet, webs, forums, sites, anything. Social media. Now, here's what's funny about social media. If you think back 10 years, was social media really that important? Was social media really that interesting? How about, was social media that valuable? I can tell you that back then, it wasn't that important. It became important, but it wasn't. Why is it that now it's important? Why is it that now it's become a necessity? Well, it's become a source of information for everybody because everyone is glued to it. Everybody has a phone. Everybody has access. So if you have access to a phone at all times, it's glued to your hand, well, that's right, in communication. But have you really thought about this? Is this a phone or electronic leash? Think about that term. When you think about that, you let me know how you feel about it. Is it a phone or a leash? Because now you're tied to it. And you're probably thinking, yeah, and you're probably wondering that's not how you thought about it. You thought about it as a communication device. You thought about it as looking at social media, looking at pictures and everything else. I'm buying the new phone for this. No, you're buying it because it has the latest features, but they're putting in there the latest tracking software, the latest tracking information, the latest ability to see and hear and know all stuff. Again, it's all tied into social media. That's exactly what they want to tie into. All right. If it's all tied into social media, then what happens at that point? Everyone sees it. Everyone can see it. Everyone can track it. Everyone can look it up and everyone can follow it. So OSINT becomes almost a necessity. Now, I'm going to show you some websites here so you can see what I'm talking about some OSINT stuff. See if I can bring this up. And you'll get a better idea what I mean by all this. So here's a website called it's a GitHub. Here's Twint. Twint's an older program, but it still works very well. Okay. But guess what? It's a Twitter intelligence tool. It tells you someone's activity and when they're doing stuff. It tells you the most active times, tells you when you and how to script to the information about them, and about anything about when certain tweets are happening, by users, topics, and so forth. hashtags. You can use OSINT, Sherlock. You can use Ghunt, big one. Ghunt's big one. Ghunt allows you to grab all kind of stuff, right? But with the cool thing about Ghunt, if you really look very carefully, trying to find where it says it. But Ghunt will grab everything about someone's Google's I'll show you Ghunt in a second. Oh, yeah, here's Stability AI. Stability AI will find you everything you want about something and anything about anything with words. Okay. Here's analyzing words. You want to start looking at the science of words. You can realize what's going on with the words that people are using. Social bearing. You can look up tweets, handles, geographical, people, followers, and friends by simply putting in something in there. Tell you all about it. Intellex. Domain, URL, whatever you want. A Bitcoin address, CIDR, a CIDR notation, IP. Find information you want. It's all there. Just a few sites, a few. And we're just scratching the surface. All this information is available. All this information is at your fingertips. What it all comes down to is how to use it. Pull from here, pull from here, pull from here, pull from here, start putting the pieces together. And then you start seeing the bigger picture. You have reports from NGOs, governments, law enforcement, and agencies. All this data eventually becomes OSINT, open source intelligence. Now, who uses it? I'm telling you right now, everybody, even your employer. I guarantee your employer. Why do they want to know your Facebook? Why do they want to know your social media? Why do they want to know all that information about you? Think about it. What's their purpose of knowing that? Law enforcement uses it. Private investigators for detectives, lawyers, bounty hunters, bail bondsmen. Lawyers do this a lot. How do you think they find if people are committing fraud? Yes, I just got a settlement for X, Y, and Z. Really? Okay, cool. We're going to watch you for the next 6 years. We're going to scan you and make sure that you are legitimately damaged or whatever you're claiming. We're going to make sure you're not lying about this. Amateur internet sleuths. Basically, everybody else. Stalkers, creepers, perverts, ex-husbands, wives, everybody you can think of uses this. There's not one person. I can almost guarantee you, everybody in this room at one point or another has Googled their name to see what comes up. Tell me if I'm wrong. You're probably thinking, yep, I had done it. I've been there. I know. We've all been there. I've done it. So how does one use it? Well, we've been talking about some of these sites and talking about some of these tools, and it's great. Anybody here look at stock trades, news, podcasts, blogs, and so forth, and you've been doing it already. You haven't realized how you've been doing it. You haven't realized how you've been reading it. Problem is you haven't realized how to collect it. And that's the whole part. Collect all data, how to process it, and how to analyze it. There's a bunch of tools that we're going to use in a few minutes. We'll show you how to use. It's going to take you into that kind of aspect of how to put it all together. Now, I'm going to bring up some tools in a minute. I'm going to go further into this and kind of show you what I'm talking about. And then I want to kind of talk about some of the items that are probably you're not going to like because it's going to hit home. All right. So we got a program called Spiderfoot you can use here. Now, Spiderfoot can basically be your own spider to find your data. It's an automation tool for OSINT. You tell it what you're looking for, and it will scour the web and look for that data for you. It may take a few minutes, it may take a few hours, it may take a few days, but it will find it. Give it time. Oh, it was developed by MIT. It's free, but developed by MIT. As you can see, you put in what you're looking for, and it will browse and find anything you want. Okay. Social Analyzer. What I like about this program here, it uses APIs for this. It analyzes and finds a person's profile across 1,000 social media websites, even ones you might have forgot about, like MySpace, Kirk, and all the old ones we don't use no more. And I believe it was Ronnie. I was asking a question earlier. Even Telegram and the other one that drops. I'm gonna ask if all our reports are sent to the FBI for cybercrime. Okay, the reports are okay. All the reports are being, they do see them. Are they monitoring them? Yes. Are they doing something about them? That's a different topic. It's a different question, different discussion, different. Some different altogether. I wish I could answer that question for you. That's not my I can't speak on behalf of them, but I can tell you that from what I know, yes, it is being monitored. There is vigilance. There are tools being used. Like, for example, they're using tools like Elk, Splunk, and others that allow them to see this in live, real form. It's pretty cool tools. I can't tell you what's after that. So I appreciate it. Thank you. So, like I was saying about this social analyzer, if you read what it says here, it's right there. No need to hide it. It's all right there. This project is currently used by some law enforcement agencies in countries where resources are limited. This actually works and works well, really well. I mean, analyzes and public extraction information with OSINT tools to help investigators public profiles related to suspicious malicious activities such as cyberbullying, cyber grooming, cyber stalking, and spreading of misinformation. This tool works well, very well, very quickly. Photon. Photon's pretty cool. It's an incredible fast crawler for that you can have on your own. Again, another one. And it will find what you're looking for wherever you want on the web. It's not very pretty, but it does the job very fast. And it will literally find you URLs, Intel, files, secrets, JavaScript, strings, subdomains, DNS records, whatever you want on anything. Very quickly. Ghunt, the one I was trying to show you earlier. Well, I couldn't find you the one I was trying to. But basically, anything related to Google, emails, photos, Google Drives, Hangouts, you name it. Everything about someone's Google, it's all there. As long as you have the Google email, yeah, not hard at all. Another one's called Sherlock. Yeah, Sherlock. Basically, you put in the person's name, Python 3, Sherlock, and the name, and it will go whatever websites, whatever sites there are with the naming that exists, and it will give you all those search results. Pretty quickly, too. We're talking minutes, we're not talking hours. So then again, you've gone through these tools, you've gone through all this information, you've gone through all this stuff. You've begun the collection. You still got to process and analyze. You're still here. How do we do this? Well, that's the next step. Oh, yeah. I forgot this is coming to come up. Shodan. I'm glad we're going to talk about Shodan. So I almost guarantee everyone here loves to talk about Google and DuckDuckGo and everything else. Shodan is probably everybody else's favorite search engine. You're probably thinking, why? Well, Shodan is something that nobody else can think of. Shodan is a lot cooler than you think. Shodan is the search engine for Internet of Things. Do you guys know what Internet of Things are? If you don't, I'll show you real quick. Actually, let me just go over it. Do you guys have any of these devices in your home right now? I'll give you a second to look at them. If you're shaking your head yes, don't worry. These devices have already been compromised. Every single one of these devices have already been hacked on here. And if you've been watching the news in the last, I'd say 2 weeks, all automotive vehicles right now are in the same boat. Anything new with a newer vehicle that has Android Auto or Apple Auto, whatever they call it, I forget what the Apple version of it is, they're all compromised. They all use the same chips. I forget the name of the chip is, but they're all compromised. Basically, there's a feature on it that allows attackers to jump in, drop a piece of malware, and it's over. And they're able to get into the vehicle that way. So automakers right now are running to apply a patch to it. But obviously, Amazon Fire Sticks, Hisense TVs, Vizio TVs, Google Nest. I don't know about you. Teddy Ruxpins, LG TVs, LG fridges, some Sony devices, Lutron bridges, Staples Connects, Greenwave. I don't know about you guys, but that's for smart home stuff. Nexus players, Western Digital Mac Clouds, QNAPs, Ring doorbells. And I'm just they actually have here. I'll give you an idea what I'm talking about. full breakdown of the device and a full disclosure on how to get the Wi-Fi credentials right off of it. There's the video, and they walk right through it, how to do it. And then here's the folders, the folder piece and how all the files are. So you can grab it and modify anything you want on it remotely. How to access the page remotely and jump into it and change the firmware. So there's that. Roku, streaming players, Samsung, all cache shares. They exist. The scary thing is right here. Here's Wiggle. Now, I don't know where most of you guys are at, but I'm just going to pick a city and we'll go from there. Let's go to New York. Wiggle shows you all the. How do we know our house device isn't listed in Shodan? Is it we verify against? Okay. Yes. I'm gonna answer that question just a second. I want to show you. So Ron is asking, how do we know our house device isn't listed under Shodan? Is it where we verify them against our public IP? Yes, it is. I'm gonna show you how to get to that. I'm about to do that right now. That's the next. That's what I was going to lead to next. Here's Wiggle. You obviously can see this is New York. These little blue dots, those are our Wi-Fi signals. Since you're asking about IoT, well, here's the problem we have. These are all the last known features, right? Well, these are all the wireless networks that are available that are publicly documented. And a lot of the times these Wi-Fi passwords are there. Most likely these are private Wi-Fis. And guess what? Stumbled Wi-Fis, today's networks, observed networks, Wi-Fi that they found today, Bluetooth devices and cell phone towers that they've documented. Why do they need to know about Bluetooth devices? Which is why I was leading to all this. If they can get on your wireless, they can get onto your IoT. So to answer the question that was being asked about publicly against public devices, yes. But how can they get on your wireless if they don't know your wireless address or the wireless password? But if it's already on the web, then it's done. The challenge I want you guys to realize is this. And I'm going to go into a few things, but what it comes down to is default passwords. Okay. Now, in these default passwords, you may think about, well, what is he talking about? Okay, well, let's look at this. These are just default passwords for different companies, right? We can look up default passwords for any brand, any device, anything. It's all there. It's great. That does me no good if you've changed the default password. So to answer the question, can they find our public IP? Yes. By simply plotting us where we're at based upon our wireless, they have an idea what our IP is. By seeing our SSID. But to make matters worse, if they're able to tell the devices that we're using, then they're able to get into our devices. So for example, if I go into exploit database, look at all the exploits. I'm going to go into that in a little bit. Go to Google Hacking Database, and I look for, let's say, a printer. I did this already, kind of get us a little ahead. In URL, printer main HTML. I did it here just to kind of get us ahead. It's right there. In Google, not magical website or anything. Brothers website, right? Our brother's printer. Look at the IP of the brother's printer. Purdue University. Purdue is a pretty substantially well-known university. Why do they have a publicly available printer? RuthMarthy.com. Why do they have a publicly available printer? all of these printers are publicly available. Another university, I guess in Germany. Point is, all these printers are available. You're worried about someone getting into your IoT device. I'd be more worried about the password you didn't reset. Because I can literally go into, let's say, this one right here. Right? I'm just going to give you an example. Let's look at this. Default password. Default is admin, password is access. Once I get into that printer, I'm in your network. Once I'm in your network, I'm scanning your network. Once I'm scanning your network, I'm scanning your devices. Once I'm scanning your devices, I'm finding you have IoT. Once I know your IP, I go to Shodan. Once I go to Shodan, I just start looking for what I want. I can put your IP in here. I can look for, let's say, I don't know, let's look for an IP address. It is a Shanghai. It's a system, open ports. SSH is open, which is a secure shell connection. It's running Ubuntu. It's 7.61 version of OpenSSH. Here's the algorithms. Here's the server keys. Here's the encryption algorithms. Here's the MAC algorithms. Well, port 1111 is open. Port 123 on UDP is open. Port 9092 on TCP is open. If I go into here and I look up PLC in the city of Shanghai, the idea. PLC is basically your it's kind of what happened in Stuxnet. They use in industrial setups. Let's look up, I don't know, camera. Well, you look at what country you want to look at. And here's all the cameras. So Manchester, you got one in the United States in San Francisco, you got one in Canada, you got one in, I don't know, Japan. These are all cameras. Go back to Explore. Let's look for default. Default using about, yeah, default username and password. There you go. You have a Synology device that has default username and password. Right there. Now, if I want to be mean, I just connect to it and just change the password. Now the person can't get into it. Default password admin and password, right? So Ronnie, I hope this helps answer your question. Here you go. Default admin password is the authentication. Right there, all these devices. They're all in Japan, but the point is, it exists. Even the intruder knows the printer IP, but when do they scan the internal network? When the payload, can't it be sent to the network? When, okay, even the intruder knows the printer IP, but when do they scan the internal network? When the payload can't be sent to the network? Yes, it can be. Because I don't have to scan the network. All I gotta do is drop the file on the printer, and the printer, because it has storage and it's on your network, it'll execute the storage. That's it. I set it to an auto run. So as long as the printer is running, it's automatically scanning. It's automatically executing. And I can set it to be a remote shell, reverse shell, and I'll connect to my machine, and I'll have full control to its terminal, and I can do whatever I want. At that point, I own the machine. No, that's spooling. That's spooling. Like kind of like a telnet connection, or I would say more like a telnet or SSH connection to it. Most printers don't do SSH, but newer ones do. Older ones only use telnet. As long as you can get the credentials, you're in. The problem is if no one changes the default password, especially on Bluetooth devices, then you got a bigger problem. Which I can almost guarantee you, no one here has changed default passwords. It's a common thing that happens. So, search engine. Obviously, we know that already. Recon NG, Web Recon. These are all different great tools. These tools are going to be taught. We talked about. We got Forsca. We've got Forsca metadata extraction. We can pull all this data. Maltego. Maltego is probably one of the best tools you're going to use. Why? Because it's free. You can jump right now into Kali, which is an operating system you can use. You can throw it into a virtual machine, jump right into Maltego, and use it. It's open source, right there. And or we can use Google Dorking, like you saw me do. Phone book this, in text, site, paste bin, in title, site, in URL, in text, whatever. This is an example of Google Dorking. Now, if you look up any internet and look up Google Dorking, you're going to get plethora of examples that come up on how to use it. It's a common way of using Google for advanced searching. Any word of caution, yeah, these captchas. Let me ask a question for you guys. Do you think these captchas are made for you, for your safety, or you think they're made for a different reason? What's the real logic behind them? And why is it always traffic signs or crosswalks or bicycles? You never thought about that? No, it's not for bots. You ready, Ronnie? If you're looking for traffic lights, you're looking for crosswalks and all these different things, you're training the AI that's going to be auto driving. Because you're telling it what to look for. I guarantee you haven't thought about that one. So yeah, every time you tell it you're not a robot, you're training the robot on how to drive. But you're telling it this is a guardrail, this is a crosswalk, this is a bridge, this is a sign. So tools, yeah, Maltego, Shodan. Talked about a bunch of these already. We talked about 10i, great tool. True People Search, that one works really well. You got also PIP, or PIPL, sorry. It's a good way to search people. Pimp Eyes, it's creepy because you can actually find what you didn't think. It's finds really, really like crazy stuff. Skip Traces is a good one. Little Brother, just you gotta use like I said, you use translator, but it works fine. Great tools to look for. Now, OSINT, this is a link I can share with you guys. I think you click on what you're looking for, and it will break out and show you everything you want to know about anything in terms of OSINT. This OSINT framework will tell you anything about any tool, any location, any data, any set you want to go for. And then you go from there. Shodan, we talked about routers, servers, firewalls, security devices, SCADA. SCADA is basically systems that are used for industrial systems, controllers, line controllers. It's a SCADA system basically is what will eventually brought down the Iranian centrifuges. They're always part of a SCADA system. Those can all be searched. They're all searchable because they're all available. And if you really got crazy with it, you can search oil tankers on Shodan. They do come up. You can't access them, but they do come up. Everything is available and searchable. Doesn't mean that you can access on some of that stuff. Maltego. The cool thing about Maltego is the fact that you can start with a needle, a little thread, spongebob@gmail.com. And then you just tell the system, search. It will find everything and anything about that specific email and where it exists in every single website. And then when it hits a specific website that will give it more data, it will spider. Like it did right here. This is what Maltego can do for you. You can do hashtags, you can do sites, you can do websites, you can do phones, you can do basically everything you could ever imagine. There's not much that Maltego can do. Yes, Camila, you can search conversations too. Yes, even hashtags. Even hashtags. You can search pictures. Can you capture exact address of a user's connected to specific Wi-Fi using Shodan? No. What you can do is you can get an approximate. And the way you accomplish that is, I'll show you what I'm talking about by doing this. If they're connected to, let's say this is a Wi-Fi 1, okay? Let's say it's Wi-Fi 1. And you can see Wi-Fi 2. And you see the person you're trying to track is here. They're connected here, right? You can use Wi-Fi 2 to see distance and time. So distance over time. Based upon this distance over time and over here, distance over time, you'd basically triangulate and you're getting an exact distance of where they're at. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps. Yeah. How do we report ourselves from being crawled by Maltego? How do we protect ourselves? Okay, good question. How can you? Stop putting public information on the web. How's that for the first start question, the first piece of it? Because it's not that you can stop it. You've already done it. You've been doing it. And to make matters worse, every time you enter any information on the web, that's it. So it's already there. You can use, there's websites that help you remove it. Some of them charge money, some of them don't. I mean, it really comes down to what you want to do. I believe there's a few free ones. So Google for attacks. Again, you can use in URL and start finding that information. Like I'll show you with the printers. Now, at the end of the day, what does this all mean for us? What does this all do for us? Well, what it does is it shows us that everything on the web is available. It's at your fingertips. Just come down to you. What do you want to grab? Okay. Let me see if I can show you this here. This is Maltego. Okay. And if you can see, this is all the information you can grab. What are you talking about? You got polyswarm, abusive stuff. You got open source sanctions, people that are companies, politicians, Maltego, alien vault information about different systems, threat information, mountains about integrations about users and conduct, attacks, platforms that help security practitioners discover and monitor issues, CrowdStrike intelligence. Clearbit's pretty good. That helps you like autocompletes, logos, and reverse search information about companies. CipherTrace is pretty cool. It allows you to get like information about money, financial systems. DarkStrike's pretty cool. It lets you get like stuff from like dark webs about information or people. DeepPL allows you to translate information in other languages. You got like music databases, full contact gives you all the person's completely full contact about people. Flight aware. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that guy that tracks Elon Musk's flight patterns. This is how he does it. As you can see, Maltego has a lot. Okay. So Google for attackers. Now, when you hear websites that get their information compromised, for example, we've had 20,000 accounts have been leaked, 40,000 accounts that have been leaked. It's okay. It happens. It's okay. It happens. It's fine. And what can we do about it? They mishandled our information. But what you need to realize is that that's your username, that's your password, that's your credentials, right? With all that information, now becomes searchable. Now your passwords are now available on those systems. So if your password is available from example, like right here, data dump. So password, Adobe passwords, LinkedIn passwords, all that stuff. If your Adobe, LinkedIn, and Google, and this and that password all the same, once they get one, they get them all. Does that make sense? So you need to start using a password manager to make sure that they don't grab all your passwords. Use different passwords for all these different sites. A bunch of different resources. You don't put all your operators in one basket and use multiple resources. Yandex is a Russian search engine. Yeah, but be careful with that one. It's good, but use a VPN for that. Bing is pretty good. Make sure you be careful what you're searching through there. Nerdy data, yeah, it's good index for code snippets. Search Diggity, yeah, can be used for APIs. That's good for API searching. Look for other vendors, look for other information, and use a lot of forums. You'd be surprised if you find in forums. There's a plethora of resources out there for you to use. You can search information in photos, files, and everything you think of. We talked about these already earlier, but yeah. Wireless communication, you got OpenMap.org and Wiggle. I talked about that a little while ago. I showed you Wiggle. This is what Wiggle looks like. Researching in IP domains and how to look at the IP. Same thing is by using the systems that we use for Google dorking. Then you got Recon NG for attackers. Recon NG is basically everything we've been doing, but on the Kali on the command line. You put in the information, you pick what you want, and it'll start attacking that system and getting you that information. It's good to work with, but be careful because just as much as you're looking, they're looking at you too. Malware sandboxes, you got Virus Total, Malwarex, Threat Expert. Cuckoo Sandbox is probably one of my favorites because you can actually use that one on your own machine. You can build it and use it on your system. CW Sandbox is pretty cool. Again, favorite of mine, Cuckoo. Cuckoo's probably the best one for me. Another one's Jola Sandbox, is a good one you can use, or any.run. Like I said, Cuckoo is great because you can download the entire environment, build your own environment, and keep it on your side and use it. So no one can track what you're doing on it. Plug publicly fund data, so you can use strings, exfil tools, pull down information from documents and so forth. Presentations. You gotta be careful what you post, guys. At the end of the day, just be careful what you post, be careful what's out there, be careful what you're giving up. Okay? Be mindful what your organization shares online. Consider how even the simplest information can be used. What your internet presence can is be careful to trace your digital fingerprint, your finger footprints and fingerprints. What OSINT can be used for attack can be used against you. What types of phishing can be used to fail for you? And then before you click on that link, be careful what you click. Remember that everything on the internet doesn't necessarily mean it's real. I can host a fake website, 2 minutes. And I can show you that just by simply opening up the Kali machine and showing you. Look. If we use random IP settings, will it help? No. Not really. So social engineering attacks. I'll show you how fast it is to set up a fake website. Can we take down a website when it's being been scamming? Oh, I get it. I get the question, Ronnie. Yes, you can. You got to report it to the person hosting it. Let's do a website attack vector. Let's do a credential harvester. Let's use a template right now. It's fine. Let's do Twitter. All right, let's open a web browser. That Twitter? Okay, let's put a username in here. If I go back to my terminal, you@me.com, and there's my password. That's how fast I was able to create a username and password. And then create a website. The point is, that's as fast as they can do it to you as well. And if you use ngrok, you can use this to do what's called a full VPN tunnel to you. It will actually bring them right to your fake website, and they'll never know that it's fake. To them, it will look secure because they'll have a nice little lock. It'll be secure, it'll be encrypted, and all is good. That's how simple that is. So when it comes down to being careful, like I was saying a little earlier, did you click the link? What type of fish? Be careful. Be mindful. You don't know what you're clicking on. Okay? I guess I'll answer questions now. But yeah, Ronnie, to answer the question about the website, I would contact that service provider, either it's AWS, Azure, whoever it is, and they can do a takedown request, and they'll bring it down. Please show us the previous slide, the takeaways. Or that one.
All right, guys, thank you all for your time, and thank you, Yvonne, for such wonderful insights. Now, guys, if any one of you have any more questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. You can either type it in the chat box, as you have already been doing, or you can unmute and ask your questions also. We'll be more than happy to go ahead and answer all the questions that's popping up in your mind. Cybersecurity has been the need of the hour for a very long time. And we go ahead and try to make sure that people like you and everybody else is equipped with all the skill sets that is required. By the way, it's the only job that actually boasts 0% unemployment rate. So you can imagine how big cybersecurity is. And with technology advancing, as we move towards Web 3.0, metaverse, blockchain, all these coming into the picture, cybersecurity is a beautiful field to go ahead and make your career into. And that is why we have our 6 months course also that we go ahead and offer more or less to get you equipped with all the skill sets that you need to go ahead and get your journey started as a cybersecurity specialist. Now, as I said, if anybody has any question, Ivan, sorry, you're saying something.
Yeah, I want to show them one more thing so you can actually enjoy. They might enjoy this. Anybody here ever played a game called Where's Waldo?
Well, I have. That counts.
So when you look at this picture, what do you guys see? You guys see where Waldo right here, right in the bottom right. It's a pretty easy picture to find, right? The reason I'm showing this is because if you look at security as a whole right now, like they were explaining to you, in this picture, this could be the entire cyber world if you look at it, right? It's pretty small in this picture. This looks like back in the early days of cybersecurity. But if you look at cybersecurity now, it looks more like this. Now, if you try and find now you try and find Waldo, where is he? Take a few minutes to find the problem, right? What I want you to realize is that when you look at it, he could be anywhere. And I don't mean to cut you guys off, but the point is, just like he was saying, just like Sanke was saying, this is so critical because now that all of you are here looking, everyone has their eyes looking for Waldo. Everyone has their eyes looking for the problem. Everyone's looking for exactly what needs to be found and exactly what needs to be addressed. And if you knew where to find them, would we need security? He's just right there. So the value of the program, the value of all this, isn't that the fact that it's there, it's the fact that if everyone is working together to stop this, then we can reduce and make the picture smaller. But if no one's helping, the picture stays big. Does that help?
Yes, it does. It's actually a pretty good representation of what we've actually been talking about.
Yeah.
Telling. Nice. That's right. I never looked at finding Walter in that way. It's good interpretation. I actually like it. And I guess so do the others also. Casey wants to know the price of the cybersecurity curriculum. Well, Casey, how about this? I can go ahead and ask one of my counselors to get in touch with you so that we can go ahead and assist you with it. Just right now, we are offering it for $599 USD. That's the price. Jessica, I see that you have unmuted yourself. Do you have a question that you want to ask? Or anybody else for that matter? Just make sure you don't speak over others, okay? One after the other.
Hi, I'm Ronnie here. Thanks, Ivan, for answering my questions. Just that I have two questions here. When you mentioned about accessing to the printer, are you using the public IP or the internal IP address? And on the second question is that since the banking nowadays are using API, so I'm not sure whether we can bypass 2FA or how do we secure API.
So I'm a big advocate about multi-factor authentication, but here's the thing. What good is multi-factor authentication if you get fatigued? Does that make sense? Attackers, what they're doing is, I don't know if you ever heard of a company called Uber. Uber got compromised because their developers got what's called MFA fatigue. The attackers were consistently sending them attacks to the developer. And the developer, just to get rid of the alert, said, yeah, whatever, here, just leave me alone. And what happened was the attacker already had the credentials. He didn't have the MFA. So every time he would try and log in, the MFA would go to the attacker, the person. The person would say yes, the attacker would log in. Little did he know that he was allowing the attacker to use his credentials. Do I believe in MFA? Yes. Do I believe you need to be careful? Yes. If you don't know why it's asking you to log in, don't approve it. That's what I'm going to respond to you with that. Should you use it? 100%. There's 4 factors when it comes to MFA. Something you know, something you are, something you have, and somewhere you are. If those 4 factors are not met, then it shouldn't allow you. But if someone's using that MFA fatigue against you, which is a common attack vector, then you're easily compromised. Then what's the point of having it? Does that help answer your question, Ronnie?
Yes, it does. About the 2FA, how do we protect our 2FA since a lot of 2FA bypass is going around on the threads? Yeah.
How do you protect it? Well, backup. Create backup keys. Apply biometrics to it. So, for example, do you use Google Authenticator? What kind of authenticator do you use?
I use quite a lot. Actually, not only Google Authenticator, but also on Microsoft, as well as other Palo Alto, I guess. It's a
All of
third
them,
party. Yeah.
all of them have biometric. Use biometric. And you can even set it to be biometric and PIN number. So it'll get a PIN number, you put in the PIN number, and then it forces you to use biometric. So it's going to force you to do 2 things before it gives you that code or whatever you're looking for. So I use that all the time. And then on top of that, I also use a password manager because you got to have that extra layer. Okay. Also to check if it calls Gmail in the location if it's hacked. That too. So, and always be mindful where the emails are coming from. Be mindful of the spelling. I hate to say this, but attackers are lazy. They don't spell well. They don't write well. They don't take the time to make it sound nice and pretty and use proper grammar. They're just gonna type it out fast and send it. If it doesn't sound right, don't buy it. No one's going to get mad if you don't answer an email. You can always say, oh, I didn't get it. Or I got your email, but I wasn't sure if it was you. Send it again. Who's going to tell you no?
Okay, Ivan, one last question. How do we recover the scam money out of exchange? Because I have quite a few cases here whereby I was requested to recover some scam money over the exchange.
Recover what? I'm sorry?
The scam money, like those
Recover the scam money, is it? Scam money.
Oh, okay. I get it. Okay. That's difficult because you have to work with your local authorities. I don't know where you're at, but I mean, you have to work with the local authorities and may even have to work with maybe the next level of authority for you guys, depending where you're at, depending who that is. That's a difficult question to ask. Depending which country you're in, depending which city you're in, that all depends on who they report to and what are the laws and concerns of that. Can it be done? Yes, it can be. And then the person that got scammed, you also have to work with that financial institute. They can put a stop payment on that stuff. There are rules and laws against that.
But it's hard, we can tell you that for sure. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the colonial pipeline hack or not.
Yeah.
That's something that happened in the past. Even the government, we're not able to go ahead and fix it. They eventually had to go ahead and pay the ransomware in order to get everything. They did spend some time, a few years, to get some of it back, but it's hard. Let me tell you that. Jessica has a question: Is pen testing a part of cybersecurity training? Yes, Jessica,
Yes.
It definitely is. Christopher, I don't know what you mean. Let's say we know about the information we need, then how? Can you rephrase your question, if you don't mind, Christopher? And in the meanwhile, if anybody else has any more question, feel free to ask.
I do have. I'm Ronnie here again.
I don't.
Yeah, I've been working as a blue team, and right now I'm trying to shift over to the red team. So how do I get or transition from a blue team to a red team?
You need to learn. So to be a good red team, you have to know the blue team. You have to know the defensive to be offensive. If you don't understand the tactics, you don't understand how to do the instant response, you got to understand all those things. All those components have to be in line for you to really, really be able to understand that whole componentry. Then once you get that into play, there's, correct me if I'm wrong, Sanjay, but you got it within the program. There's a pen testing platform where you're actually getting to that, and then they go over those aspects of it, and yeah, you build from there. There's HackerOne, there's Hack the Box, there's Capture the Flag that helps you build your skill sets and your tooling and get better at it for you to practice.
Well, actually, I did that, and somehow most of the employers out there, they would like to have the persons to have like 5 years or 10 years skills. So I'm not sure how do I, get from blue team to red team when I've also having decades of experience.
So when you say 5 to 10 years or 15 years of a skill, I mean of experience, right? But what is it? What is experience? Working or experience as doing? Because doing experience is the same thing as doing these challenges, right?
Yep, that's the hard part because from my
No, it's
side
not.
will be
It's
from
not
the
really
blue
that hard.
teams.
All you can do is prove it. And I don't mean to cut you off, but let's be very honest. If you can prove you can do the work, if you can prove you can execute the task, if you can prove you can read the code, if you can prove that you can actually do it, then you're not, where's the problem? See, that's the thing that people don't realize. When you're looking at these job searches, you're looking at it saying, I need 15 years of experience. No, you don't. You're looking at it from a wish list. They want you to have 15 years. You don't need to have 15 years. You need to have experience. That's it. You go to the job interview and you present yourself, as long as you can do the job and you can present to them that you can do the job and you can meet the requirements confidently, they will accept you. The same thing I've told many students in the past. Don't get sidetracked because they're telling you need 10 years of experience. No, they don't. No, you don't. You need to be able to be confident that you know the information and prove that you can do the information. You can do that. That's where the big piece is. Because if you really think about it, I've seen companies posting jobs about Kubernetes that it needs to have, I believe, like 10 year, 15 years of experience when it's only been out for 4 years. How are you planning to have 10 years of experience when it hasn't even been out? Doesn't exist, but they expect it. Well, if that's the case, then show me who would have that. Here, I got a good example over here. Is a picture. Somebody that was a job posting that wanted 12 years experience in Kubernetes. Minimal 12-year experience in Kubernetes administration and management. Guess what? 6 years ago is when it came out. How are you going to have 12 years of experience for a job? It doesn't exist. It's a wish list. Somebody copied and pasted into a job post and let it go. You know what I would have done in this job post? I would have copied that entire piece right there. I would have pasted into my resume in white ink. And when my resume would have gone posted on their website, guess what would have happened? Their applicant tracking system would have automatically seen that I was a perfect candidate. That's it. And I bypass the system. And I'm sitting in front of the hiring manager and I'm talking to them. I may not have 12 years of experience, but they're looking at me going, why are you the perfect candidate? Because I beat your system.
Wow, that's a good idea though. Yeah. Actually, I've been thinking, how do I bypass the ATS, but somehow keywords are the main filtrations. Yeah, one of the factors actually.
You don't need keywords. All you gotta do is copy the entire requirements in white ink, put it on your resume, let it go.
All right, so we are running short on time. I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk.
Mhm.
So Christopher has a question. What can
Yes.
we do about the information? We get all of these attacks. So even if we collect all these information, how we are going to get attacked, you know, all these public IPs and all that stuff. So what's next? That's what Christopher wants to know. How can we keep ourselves protected? I guess that's what he means.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to the same thing. You were collecting information for what? The main reason why you start collecting is because you have a focus to do something with it. If you don't have an objective, then why did you start? That's the real question. What is your objective? That's kind of where I'm going with that. I mean, usually people don't get into OSINTs without having a reason for it. But if you're collecting your personal information to see what's out there and see what's available, yeah, sure, go ahead. Collect it, document it, and let's say, for example, you want to clear it out. Well, it depends where you are and what countries, but a lot of countries and cities allow you to have your data be cleared. If you're in the EU, well, you can actually request to have all your data to be wiped out of those systems by the GDPR. That's available to you. It's 100% available to you. You can request it. They'll do it. They have to do it. Here's my data. I want it gone. Done. It's
Policies,
completely available.
compliances, all available.
Yep. And then last question says, is there?
Yeah, Jessica has a question. I just typed it in the chat also. You can probably see.
Yeah.
Is there a way to stop or at least delay sending too many MFA requests to avoid MFA fatigue? That's what Jessica says.
No, unfortunately not, because that basically means that someone compromised your account. My advice at that point would be to reset your password, or start applying some security layers in your account. For example, some extra monitoring on your account and seeing where are they trying to log in from with your account, and see if it's a country, then block the country if you're not doing any business with it. If it's a city, if it's an IP, if whatever it is, block it. That will reduce that MFA. And then Ian, is a Sherlock tool. It might be in the newer Kali. It might be. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't checked it yet. I don't use Sherlock in Kali. I use Sherlock from GitHub, so it could be. Perfect.
TD has a question. May I know if phone cloning, SIM hijacking are one of the common cybersecurity attack nowadays, and how to prevent it?
No, actually, they moved on to what's called a little more complicated attack. It's digital. They say digital assistant attack. It's they're using ultrasonic vibrations to attack your digital assistant, Siri, Google. They're over the air. There's a really good article about it. If you want, I can send it to you. I have to find it, but basically they're using very, 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 like very, very, very sensitive ultrasonic vibrations through the air, and the digital assistant will execute attacks. There's no more need to SIM jack or SIM cloning or any of that stuff, because it will automatically do it for you by simply sending the commands. It's really easy. It's a lot easier than I thought it would be.
All right, then. Anybody else has any more questions that you want to ask? I can squeeze in one more question if anybody has. Otherwise, we are going to go ahead and call it today. Again, before I go ahead and end it, I would just like to thank all of you for being a part of this session. And thank you, Ivan. Thank you once again for taking out time. I know it was pretty early at your place. You still took out time to go ahead and address all the issues for all the participants, all the students that we have over here. So I see that you have sent the link. Let me go ahead and share it with all the participants so that they can see it too.
Perfect.
All right, guys. So we are gonna go ahead and end today's session, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you into the program so that we can together learn about cybersecurity and move towards a more, better world. Ivan, any last words that you have before we go ahead and end?
Be mindful, be safe, be careful what you post, and just remember that question, why am I clicking this? Check the links, check the emails, read, double read, triple read, and double check your URLs. Just double check everything before you click on anything. You never really know what's out there. Careful what you download, careful what you click on, all kind of stuff. Just be careful, guys. Really, really be careful. It's surprisingly vicious. Okay?
Surprisingly easy also nowadays to go ahead and lose
Yes.
tons of money,
From the
you know.
attacker
So
side.
from the attacker side, right? I know that as a fact, you know. So
Yeah.
seen a lot of cases as such. So that's more or less it. Thank you once again, guys. More or less what he meant was to unlock the Sherlock inside of you also, as the topic suggested. And I hope all of you learned something new. And I'm really hopeful to see all of you into the program also. On that note, this is me signing off. Thank you once again, guys. You have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye. Take care and stay safe. Bye, Ivan. Thank you all of you.
Bye. Thank you, guys.